So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our Ultimate Talent Competition and Interviewing Skills webinar. We will be getting started in just a moment. We're just going to wait for a couple of more attendees to join us. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Brianna Williams. I am the Florida SBDC at FIU Special Events Manager. Just as a quick housekeeping sort of items that we have, our team just launched a poll on your screen. So please make sure to complete the poll so our team and presenter can learn just a little bit more about your business and how we can continue to tailor all of our webinars and trainings to meet your business needs. Also, if you could please take a moment just to introduce yourself and your business in our chat function as well. This is an opportunity to network with other businesses that are in attendance this morning. Throughout the presentation, if you do have any questions throughout, please make sure to place them in our Q&A box. We will answer all questions at the end. And just lastly, I would like to note that today's presentation is being recorded. We will make that available on our FIU Entrepreneurship YouTube channel, as well as our team will be sending out the presentation to all of today's attendees. So I'm going to turn over now to our presenter today, Xiomara Hidalgo.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Brianna. My name is Xiomara Hidalgo. I am the HR consultant for the SBDC. And let me tell you a little bit about the SBDC and the programs and the support that the SBDC does for all the small and medium businesses in the community. These are programs intended to help small businesses grow, launch their business, support you through the process, and you have access to multiple consultants with different specialties and capabilities to help you take your business to the next level. And most importantly, these services are at no cost to the business. So we have an array of consultants available to assist you and your organization grow and take your business, move it forward. So with that said, I am the one specializing in human resources. And today we want to talk about attracting talent, interviewing skills. As we know, the market today is a very challenging market. When we start thinking about, talent and the challenges that businesses face today, and nowadays is something that is affecting everybody. So small, medium, large companies, they are all competing for talent. And obviously, COVID made the situation that was already difficult. It exacerbated the challenges that businesses are facing to grow and to keep and retain people. So it has taken a whole different dimension that literally every business is struggling today to keep up in terms of finding people and retaining them. It has become very, very challenging. And when we think about just 2 years ago, the US were already facing a shortage in workers, college grads. Human capital has become one of the biggest challenges for organizations, for growth, for even just keeping business afloat. Right now, is one of the biggest challenges most businesses are dealing with. Is sometimes you have the business, you have the production, you have everything, but you don't have the people to make it happen. And it's very frustrating for a lot of companies, and not only small businesses, larger employers are also dealing with the situation that you have the growth in your hands and you cannot materialize it Like I could tell you, I work with many clients that they have had to let go contracts because they just don't have the people to execute those contracts. And it's very frustrating after all the effort put to win a business and finally get the business awarded to your organization and not be able to staff it. And right now that is affecting literally everybody globally. It's not only in the US. I work with a lot of companies with multinational and international presence, and it's happening across the globe. The mindset and the way what workers want and what they expect from businesses is changing, is shifting. What people want out of a job is not what it used to be. You know, in the past, people look for stability, career growth, a good salary. Those things are still important, but people expect more. And if we think about the US, in Q4, 15 million workers resigned from their positions. That's what is called the Great Resignation. There was a 4.5 million every single month in Q4 last year. And guess what? February again, this year, another 5 million resignations in the US taking place. So businesses right now are at odds, trying to understand, what do we do? What is happening? What do people want? And then one of the biggest challenges right now is that, you know, last year people thought, well, maybe when the subsidy in unemployment is keeping people from working, and once it ends all the situations, every employer expected for that to, okay, finally it will stabilize. Things will start changing. Workers will start coming back to the workplace. But we are seeing that not necessarily is still happening. Obviously, that did impact a number of workers not coming into the jobs, not returning back or not accepting new positions. We do have a dynamic playing out in the marketplace that it has not been the norm in the past. I don't think it's something that any one of us have experienced before. And right now, as we deal with this shortage of talent, and it's affecting everybody, one of the things that also small and medium companies, on top of that, you still have to compete with larger companies who can offer more benefits, more money, different perks that it may become unaffordable for a small organization to provide. And you know, one of the things that we do have to take into account is as we look at this situation, we also have to recognize that we also have different generations coming into the workplace. So we have the millennials, we have the Gen Zs, and what they look for a job is not necessarily what previous generations look for a job. You know, in the past, you know, boomers and Gen Xers were looking more for stability, salary, benefits, things of the like. The new generations look more for the culture of the company, to feel value, flexibility, work-life balance. They want to, you know, in the past, previous generation live to work, and work became the center of their life. So with these new generations, they see things differently, because this generation grew up with instant gratification. And what they expect out of the workplace is the flexibility, is that, you know, work-life balance. Do they sympathize, or do they identify with the culture of the company? Because nowadays, if that is not in place, you will not be able to attract and retain these workers. And this is some of the advantages where smaller and medium companies have against the larger organizations, because they have more flexibility to create a more inclusive work environment, a more welcoming culture, a place where people feel their opinion really counts, that they are not a number, that they have the flexibility to be creative, to do things differently than just punch a card at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. You know, this generation don't like the 9 to 5 routine. They're more about flexibility, different ways of doing things, being allowed to create things rather than just following a task. And in that area, the smaller businesses have a significant advantage to large organizations that are more bureaucratic, are more difficult to change, they are not as agile. And that's where the playing field is leveraging out, where the smaller and medium companies have the ability to provide a culture that is more identifiable to workers, to provide the flexibility and be more agile in the way to do business and to do things the larger organization. That's where smaller and medium companies can leverage their offering against the money and benefits that larger organizations can offer. And this is where, in fact, a lot of the new entries, the new grads and new generations, they prefer, and the smaller and medium organizations actually have a better chance to get that talent. And even right now, where we see the market is very difficult, because right now we see a lot of us see that you have to post position for a longer time. In the past, you will post a position, you will get immediately 100 applicants. Right now, if you're lucky, you get 5 to 10 people. So it's very frustrating, and you know, recognizing that is one of the things that as businesses we have to be conscious that the marketplace, it has shifted. You know, up to 2020 it was an employer's market. Right now it's an employee's market. And what we see is that we have to be more creative in the way that we attract people, in the, you know, in the way that we utilize more recruiting tactics. We have to use more creative media, more social media, because it's not the typical recruiting, just posting a position in Indeed or Craigslist or ZipRecruiters or things like that in itself is not necessarily going to bring you all the talent or the right talent that you are looking for. So right now it's a lot more about creativity. It's about where they are and who you reach them. Right now it's a lot of, believe it or not, it's a lot of recruiting happens in TikTok. It's creating your recruiting video, talking about your company. Why it's so exciting for them to come and work for you? What should they experience at your place of work? And creating those TikTok videos, putting, you know, people that shows it's a relaxed, it's a hip work environment. And sometimes I know for many of us, sometimes that can be difficult to understand or to accept, but it's the reality of the marketplace today. And at the end of the day, they bring a lot of creativity when you attract and are able to bring a generation that this is the generation that is going to be in the workplace And they are the majority right now, as a lot of the boomers that start retiring, even a lot of the Gen Xers, a lot of people are hearing early retirement. And it's one of the effects from COVID. I think a lot of people realized and started prioritizing what's more important for them in their life. So what we have to do, we have to adapt. We have to make sure that the culture of our company is attractive to people, that we have flexibility, that we can accommodate people if they have their school schedule or they have some childcare needs, that we show flexibility. And to be quite honest, work at home is here to stay. You know, not all jobs are feasible to be done remotely, and we are conscious of that. But we also have to see what can we do to build in a level of flexibility so those workers stay with you, because it takes a lot of time and money to recruit people. Recruiting is very time intensive, reviewing resumes, interviewing people, and especially nowadays, that people schedule interview and they don't show up. A couple of months ago, McDonald's was offering $50 to people just to show up to an interview. Not even just after being hired. You know, right now there's sign-on bonuses happening everywhere. You know, larger organizations are trying to throw money at the problem, which, you know, it works short terms. And what we are seeing is, yes, they come in, they take the money, and then there's a massive turnover. It's still taking place. So the aspect that people say in their exit interviews, and I work in a large organization as well, and what you see and you hear people is about the flexibility. It's about the ability to work remotely. It's about the culture of the company. It's about the company having an inclusive work environment where people can be themselves. And it is something that businesses have to start adapting. And those who are more agile in adapting are the ones that are having more success in recruiting and utilizing social media as a recruiting tool, because right now that is the most utilized recruitment tool that is having the most success versus the traditional recruiting approach. Also very important is that when you bring people in, is that as a business, it is a two-way street. You know, we have to make sure we create a good impression. You know, being on time. When we have somebody coming and they have, you know, invested the time to be there, go to an interview, we also have to show them respect and be on time. There are many instances where people go to an interview and they are left waiting an hour before somebody comes to sit with them, and then you see they come unprepared. They haven't even reviewed their resume and are not ready to engage, or are very cut and dry. Right now, you know, people have to feel that they connect with the organization. If the first impression is somebody dismissive, or okay, you're here because you need this job, and have that body language and demeanor, unfortunately, that's going to be very detrimental to the process and managing the impression, because nowadays, candidates have way too many options where to choose where to work. And we have to be, you know, conscious of that. So we want to make sure that we are clear in our communication with job applicants, that we are curious, you know, that during the interview, we come prepared with information. that we are able to discuss the company, the culture, the company values, how is it to work for the company, because those are the things that people are looking for. And that when we schedule them, that we provide instructions on the email in terms of address, where to park, you know, any of those things that can facilitate the process for individuals. And most of all is the respect that we show to the person, even if the interview doesn't work out or they are not the selected person, that we still send a, hey, thank you for your time. At this time you were not selected. We decided to move with somebody else, but we appreciate your time to come and meet with us. You see, people value those subtleties, those, you know, courtesies. And especially nowadays that anybody that gets upset, they post everything on social media, and all of a sudden you have a crisis against your business because something negative is trending about your organization just because somebody got a bad impression. So this is important that we are conscious of the effect, positive and negative, that social media can have when we create a situation that we don't manage an interview properly, or the person feels disrespected, or that we don't have the courtesy to get back to those applicants that went through the process and took the time to show up. Because nowadays it has been situations that is almost like whoever comes through the door. And it is frustrating for businesses because obviously, you know, we don't feel we have anymore the ability to select the best. Right now, the market conditions and situation have created a situation that we almost have to select whoever shows up. And it's frustrating and it's difficult because on top of that, we have to make sure we manage those people to ensure they are productive, that they do the best for the business, and that our investment gets a return on investment on the salary and benefits that we provide to that individual. So that's why we also have to make the best in terms of creating that first impression, the recruiting activities and creativity that we put in it, to make sure that at least we have a couple of options where to choose from. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, the company culture is going to be a big component in retaining those employees, because it costs a lot of money to recruit. And it costs time and money when you do it yourself. And if you engage a staffing agency, it's a very expensive proposition too. And sometimes it's the best option for positions that are professional or specialized positions. But it costs you 30 to 35% of the total annual salary of that person in agency's fees. So you're talking about $30,000 to $40,000 that you have to pay an agency to recruit somebody. So you want to make sure that after you have spent all that money, that person stay, because you know they identify with the company culture, they identify with the company values, and they feel that they can be productive and feel part of that organization. And is the reality that we are dealing today. And one of the things that also creates and having that is your college relations activities. Universities and colleges and specialized schools, they also are a good source of talent and recruiting. And you can create your company logins to be able to post in all of the universities with the career services, organize events and job fairs with career services. These are very good source of recruiting, especially because a lot of the students, they are very eager, they're willing, they're trying to build their resume, they want to get their career started, and small and medium companies offer a lot of opportunities for them to be creative, to do more than just one task. Because one thing that is different, and is an advantage for a small and medium organization, is that when you hire a business student or an accounting student, they have exposure to do bookkeepings and entries from A through Z. In a large organization, they're just going to do one task. They could be either just accounts payable or account receivable, unless they have already built a significant portfolio of experiences. They're not going to be able to do that or get the exposure. So those are the things that, you know, you have to build into your speech when you are recruiting at colleges and universities. How you make it sexy and attractive for those candidates, you know, is here you have the opportunity to learn and be more than just a task performer. So, and these are things that are available to them that they don't get in large organizations. So it's about the creativity and also the relationship management with the career services to make sure that you can organize events and always have access to a student and the possibility to do on-campus interviews and be able to get access to people right in the source where they are building their career and are interested in learning more. So in terms of that, one of the things we have to take into account is the whole interview process. You know, you want to make sure you review your process, that you also have a structured interviews, and most of all, that you engage on behavioral-based interviews. Because after you go through all that process that we describe for recruiting, attracting, okay, now you have the candidate in front of you. And it's very important that we ask open-ended questions, that we ask a structure, that we take the time before the interview to get ready. So to make sure that questions are related to the job description, to make sure that at least the person has the ability and capabilities that we are looking for, and those are defined in the job description. Otherwise, you're going to have just scrambling for asking questions and that are not that relevant, or you won't be able to establish the competency that you need for the individual, or identify properly the skills that the person needs to bring to be successful in the job. And you also want to ensure that you engage on behavioral-based questions, that you ask the individual, so tell me about the time that you dealt with a difficult client and what was the outcome? Because there you're looking for the individual ability to deal with conflict and still be able to salvage a client relationship. Because depending on how the person answered those questions, then you will be able to determine, can this person, depending on the role, have the skills and abilities that I need for this individual to treat my customers? Because at the end of the day, our clients and customers are very important. We want to make sure we don't lose them and that our employees provide the best services. But we want to make sure they have the ability to do that. And you can only extract that through behavioral-based questions. And, you know, typically, the past is the best predictive of future behavior that we have. And what people have done is what can tell us more or less, okay, will they be a right fit for that position? Because many times we have individuals or employees that we said, oh my God, this is a horrible employee, so it's a very poor performer. And many times it's a matter of casting. The person is just not in the right position. And then you move them, you transfer them to a different job, and they become a superstar. Because we have to make sure that people are placed in the proper job that goes in line with their skills and abilities. That's why having a job description is so critical. It will also help you because people want to see the job, how enriching it is. You know, what is it that they are going to be doing? What is expected of them? And the only way you could do that is by having a developed job description. In terms of the accountabilities and responsibilities, that's where you're going to have all of that. But also, the person will be able to see, and for them to acknowledge what are the skills and competencies required for the job, because those are also going to be included in the job description. And the job description is something, it can become a legal document, because depending on the job, it's also how you established if the position is salary or hourly. It has to be with the job description, because there are 3 tests that the Department of Labor has that you have to apply to that job description to be able to establish if the position qualifies to be salary or hourly. The job description is what also going to establish the essential functions of the job. So when you have somebody asking for reasonable accommodation, you have to provide that as long as the person can perform the essential functions of the job. And those are the responsibilities and accountabilities in the job description. It's also covered OSHA, because the job description establishes the work environment and physical requirements of the job. So as you can see, the job description covers what is called the Bermuda Triangle in the HR world. But it also helps you when you post a position and people see it's a very well developed and established job description, they can determine, oh, this is something interesting, this is something that I would like to do, or that is something I like to do, or I have experience doing, because you are telling them what is expected of them from the posting of the job with the job description. So one of the things that is important also to keep in mind is that once we post the position, you interview, you want to do your phone screening, and especially nowadays, before you bring somebody for a face-to-face interview, people are very sensitive to timing, to driving, and and also for your own time. So you want to do a phone screening before to ensure that the person has the skill set and it meets the minimum requirements. And based on that, then you could bring them in for a face interview and determine, okay, this is the right person. And then you can make your decision on selecting the candidate. What you see here is the step-by-step process to hire somebody. Well, you post a position, but before posting the position, you need to have your job description. You screen, you interview. Depending on the job, some positions require assessments and tests. You make your decisions after you have reviewed multiple candidates and try to be as accurate as possible in your assessment, because remember, it costs you money. And the person you hire will be either your blessing or your headache. There's not in between. So you want to make sure you put the amount of time to this process and that you are in it. Because again, it's a costly proposition when you bring the wrong person or they leave immediately because it costs you a lot of money. And depending on the job or the place, you may have drug testing and background check requirements, and then your onboarding. The onboarding of the new hire, especially nowadays, is very important because people now are looking for the orientation into the company. They're looking to learn about the company policies, procedures, the company values. What are things? How do I get paid? If I have benefits, what are those? How do they work? Who are my colleagues? Being introduced, understand who's their supervisors, what are the expectations, what are the rules. This is the time where you want to communicate all of that right from the beginning. You want to make sure you set the right expectations so people understand what you expect from them to be successful at your company. And here we have a bit of what we have discussed before in terms of the structured interview, in terms of doing your evaluation, in terms of understanding before you start the interview that you have reviewed the resume and you're going to look anything that is related to the job. Talk to me about what have you done related to this particular function, what worked, what didn't, were you successful? Talk to me about something where you failed. It's important to hear not only the successes, but also the failures, because we as humans, we also fail. But from failure, you learn. And that's what you're looking for. That people learn from their mistakes, because undoubtedly people will make mistakes. We are human. So we want to make sure that we also look for those. And, you know, and that's an important aspect when people can talk candidly about something where they really fail and what they learned out of it. It's very important because it talks about the person's ability to recognize and also to learn from it and to ensure that they don't repeat it again. Because learnings most of the time comes from our failures. And that's important that we recognize that. So be prepared, have at least your questions ready to make sure that then you're not just, okay, tell me about yourself. Because then you don't get the best in terms of understanding the person's competencies and skills. And we talked about the behavioral interview already and why it's so important, because we want to make sure the person also is a match for the company culture. Because it's not only you having a good culture, but you also want to make sure the person you're bringing in is a match to the culture of your organization. There's nothing more detrimental to a business when you have a good, inclusive, cohesive work environment and you hire a supervisor or a manager who is not a match to the culture that you have in your business. That person can cause you a lot of turnover in your business. So it's important, that's why those behavioral interviews are so critical. And the questions that you ask, and about, you know, asking them something specific about the culture of your company and see how they respond, because you're looking to ensure that they match the organization and that they can fit in with everybody else and not create disruptions. So, and you are going to get a lot of these, and you have here some samples in terms of some of those behavioral interviews questions and that you could use, and we're going to provide these presentations, I believe Brianna mentioned. So you can look at the material, but also see some of the samples of questions that you can ask, and they are guide intended to extract information to see how people react and what have they done in the past, and also look for how they answer, so you could ask follow-up questions depending on how they answer, depending on what somebody tell you, how they dealt with an irate customer, you want to make sure you do some follow-up. So tell me a bit more and what happened and some of these things that are very important for you to hear from them. And always compare the candidate's qualification to the job description and ask yourself, can this person really do the job? Or more importantly, because attitude is better than technical capabilities, because you could train for technical capabilities, but you cannot train for attitude. Is the person willing to learn and grow on the job? Can the person make our company stronger? And those are the things that you want to take into account before you make your decision of the person you are going to hire. And one of the things we included here, I'm not going to go through a lot of them, and it's things you have to keep in mind, which are regulations that affect and impact the employment process, the hiring process, and the employment relationships. And these are things that you want to make sure you are aware, which are the EOC, the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, because you want to make sure you don't engage in what is called any violation or equal employment opportunity violation based on any of these biases that can cost your company a lot of money in litigation. So you want to avoid those. And we have provided here some just heads up to make sure that you are aware of them. And I know I've been talking for quite a bit, and I would like to open it up for some questions now.
Alrighty, so we did have one question. It says, if you have your cell on your resume, is it okay to text the candidate if they applied for a role?
If you have your, I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
It said, so if you have like a cell phone number on a resume, is it okay to text or contact the candidate if they applied for a role?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So many times right now, because you call candidates, and most people nowadays, you get so many scam calls, don't answer calls from phone numbers that they don't know. So what a lot of companies do now, there are even businesses text messages software where you send candidates a text message letting them know, hey, this is such and such for company X, Y, and Z. You apply for a position here. We would love to have the opportunity to discuss this role with you. Are you available for an interview? So it is perfectly fine to text candidates, and especially because nowadays people don't answer their phone, thanks to telemarketers.
Very true, very true. And
Yes.
I believe that concludes all of our questions. We just had one in our Q&A box. But thank you so much, Kiamara. That was a wonderful presentation. And thank you to everyone that participated and joined our webinar today. So again, just as a reminder, our team will be sending both the presentation and a YouTube link to all of the attendees. Our YouTube page is FIU Entrepreneurship. And if you are interested in receiving further assistance from one of our consultants in any area, so HR, marketing, access to capital, please make sure to click the registration link in the chat that we had posted, or you can also go to our website, sbdc.fiu.edu, and register today. So again, thank you all for your participation and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.